today's lesson and a quick little recap of what's happened over the past 2 weeks. Current market conditions and top gainers that are giving back gains. I mean, this is our current market conditions. I mean, what we have seen, we're either playing previous top spikers or gainers, sometimes on news, sometimes on not. We've seen a lot of news, like I've showed you today, give back gains. But our top gainers that we see in pre-market, which I'm going to go back to and end this lesson with, real live charting from today in stocks we went over, right? ENTX, NLPS. Remember what happened to those guys? Or NLSP, what? Anyway, let's go all the way back. The number one, and I could have probably kept going, but I was like, I'm gonna stop it here. I've got like 10, literally like 14. I think I've got to go through, which is nuts. Now I know you're gonna see the date at the top. It's because what I did this yesterday on 3/11. This is when I got this. Look when I did it at 2:00 in the afternoon when I was showing deck. DYNT. This was the number one. Go back, number one top gainer from 225. Go back to 225 on your daily chart and see this was the day when it spiked. Look at this. Exactly what we've seen a lot of, right, team? Pre-market spiking. That's the time to trade. I mean, Deck had us. I mean, I'm telling you, I forgot when it was. If you've been in chat long enough, I think it was 2017 or 18, the summer of. He was killing it, and that's where he came up with that early bird gets the worm. Remember, he ain't been like that too much anymore. He trades here and there in pre-market, but mainly saves the goods for market time, right? But used to. I mean, this is where he'd kill it. He'd see something release and hop in. I mean, look at that. I mean, we're going from 160. We break over finally this 180 area, and then what's that? Yeah, $2 area, I should say. $2 area, and we're off to the races up to almost $4. But then look what we do. All the way back below where we opened, obviously. We didn't do anything at the open. That's kind of what we're going to see a lot of. It's going to be a very common thread right here, team. With a downtrend. And we give back gains all the way before, sometimes even literally where the spike started. We're down here at 160, 140. We started this right here at 170-ish, 180. DYNT, top gainer on February the 25th. Look what happened. ASLN, number one top gainer from March the 1st. Does this not look exactly like, almost like that? Almost identical, right? About as good as you can get. But regardless, same type spike, trying to hold it, getting a little archy here. That's what Deck comes up with that little term, especially when it formed one more of these little guys. But we arched a hole real quick and we cracked back super hard. Again, maybe, excuse me there, sometimes a small little spike at the open like we see here. But again, just giving back gains throughout the day. Now, yes, there are bounces to be had. We'll get the 520 bounce back. You get some of these bounces at 525 back up to 550 plus. Get a few of those and we finally crack that, come back more. But again, number one top gainer, gone, down. This looks a little different. We're trying to hold here, right? We're trying to hold at least a little bit. And NVC, and some of these are just, look at these trend lines I had set in that I went back through. And I was like, oh, that's funny. But from the March the 2nd, number one top gainer in NVC. Look at the trend line crack. If you even this where it came, you got in short here, even if obviously you would have been beautiful and out here, most likely you would not have held longer. But anytime look at this, it never came back above this 850 area, 875. You were golden even from right here at the 830 mark. You're great. This eventually ends off all the way down. You're gonna hold it all day. But I'm just showing you, even if you did a lot of these plays, get in at the morning spike, right? Another morning spike, right on back. Ovid, from March the 3rd. Go back and check. Promise you, I did all this yesterday. Look at the spike. We gap up from $3 up to about $4. Then we're spiking up to 611. Doing the same thing. I forgot that I think I erased it. Maybe I meant to draw one in. I guess I forgot to draw one in is what it probably was. I wouldn't have erased it. Look at the trend line crack. Look at this beautiful trend line and you crack it. Woo! I mean, a lot of them start, bottoming off. We do find bottoms on a lot of these. You see finally, and a lot of them are, and I'll show you the ones that did continue, but most of these kind of fell off the next day too. But this is what we're seeing. Again, a lot of trend lines that are being cracked early on, nice spiking in pre-market, and this one had a lot of bounces up and down, but then look at this, down the gutter, the slide, however you want to look and word it. ANCN, we had back-to-back days. I'll never forget this with ANs, starting with AN, spiking and then dropping. ANCN, look at spiked. I messed up and didn't get all the way. It started back down here around the $4 area, $4.25. Gaps all the way up and spikes to 875 roll. Here's the 875 roll. One of the toughest resistance lines in penny stocks. And just collapses all day until finally at market open, we're back to $5. That's where the bounce ended up being here. And then up again. Once again, we see this nasty, weird, hard to get in and out movement. Up and down, up and down. Finally cracking the trend line here, and we're done for the day. Over. Couple of shots here to use, if you're in on that. Very, once again, be careful. But yes, there are areas. 520. We never got the $5 bounce again, but 525 definitely held up very nice. Try to U-shape, almost W-ish shape up through the VWAP. Again, failed. Didn't quite get there at the essentially $6 VWAP mark. Bangarang, whammy. You're done. Get out of here, ANCN. Let's go to the next day, ANPC. Right, back-to-back days. Seeing ANs go down the drain. Well, starting with AN. But again, the same thing. And I forgot to put a trend line in this yesterday. Number one top gainer from March the 9th. So we're just going right in a row here, team. I mean, we're just right every day. Put the trend line in here. We kind of did crack it, but, we didn't fully crack it here. But once we finally do it, might as well just, hey, trend, right? It's kind of what we've been seeing. Here's your trend. Here's what we've been seeing most of right here, a lot of. Pre-market spiking with news or no news, then literally giving back gains. So why I'm saying lately, and don't hound me, please, when I say PRs mean ditto, squat, really not too much for me lately. What I was saying today, kind of going live, I'm like, okay, Tim, just letting you know. I'm like, here's kind of what I've seen. And I just went over it again yesterday. We're going to see some great pre-market spiking. We're going to see a lot of stocks giving back some gains. ENVB, here's your next one. This is your top gainer from 310, March the 10th. So March the 10th, and again, you could have put a trend line in right here. Could have put a trend line in right here. Look at the shorts to be had. If this severe steep trend line, you're in here at 650-ish area, right around in here. Immediately down to $6. Could have got in probably most likely higher, but I'm just saying, quick 50-cent easy short. Again, here's this trend line finally cracking. You're in at $6 essentially, somewhere in that range. Probably more likely, really could have been like the 615 mark, probably. Boom, immediately down to 550. Then we're forming another trend line. So we have this trend line. Okay, crack down. Okay, now trying to hold this trend line. Okay, crack down. Okay, cool, another short. Okay, here's another one that's trying to form another lower trend line. It's formed 3 now. Oh, and that one cracks. That ends up being the money maker, as you could have got in here at about 625. Well, more than that, probably like 640. And this just falls and falls and falls. Again, pre-market spike. Some spiking. This one lasted a little longer. This lasted about an hour and a half, 2 hours in the market open. Well, actually 2.5 hours, right around 11, because this uptrend lasted right around till, that's my time, so of course noon Dex time. But essentially 2.5 hours in the market open, and then CETX, same day, number 2 top gainer from March the 10th. We spike up from 175 up to 550. I think at one point this was the number 1 top gainer when obviously I'm guessing when it went from 150 up to 550. Again, all the way back down here we open. Well, I guess we finally kind of squeeze at the open here, but still open at a little over 3. I mean, we did come back down to 2, in the 2s. Squeeze over 3 at the open, spike back down, spike back down, spike back down, crack the trend line. I mean, essentially that's all we see. Very hard movement. So Tim, another thing I'm trying to show you there, don't get frustrated if you haven't, banked on these plays, or you thinking it is tougher to trade these. I mean, look at this movement. Yeah, straight up, and then okay, straight down, and then you're not getting true VWAP bounces. You kind of get one here when you spike above it. You get a small one, and then we crack below it, and then we push above it. I don't really get one there. We crack straight through the the VWAP to the trend line. So it's been a little tough lately. Why I've just been shorting a lot more so lately, knowing I've seen this for literally going on 3 weeks now. The number 1 top gainer, I can bet on something like this happening. I mean, I've showed you 9 now in a row where you could have shorted or just been a part of it. Let's go back. Excuse me again. Go back to yesterday. LGVN, number 2 top gainer yesterday. Look at the trend line. Again, forming from pre-market. Nice little spike. Nothing too crazy. 750 up to 10 plus. Battling 10. Getting that squeeze through 10. And by the way, I'm sure that would have been a tweezer top in a 2-minute Dex, granted, amazing 2-minute time frame. Once however the 5 candles there, it probably would have been a beautiful tweezer top. In case what I was talking about earlier, a beautiful short back down through the trend line, another short to be had, especially when you crack the VWAP as well. And on almost every time, do you not see this as same little like slide? Woo, woo. Oh, that one, not much one there. I'll give you that. ANPC. Woo! This is more of a like, whoa, we're going downhill. It's more of a straight, but you get my point. A lot of these have that little hillish type, a little bit held up there, but see another one of those little, whoo. So most of these, a lot, very similar, right, team? Very similar. Let's get back. Okay, now we're back to LG. This is where we were at earlier. Nice little slide going down. ENTX, this was the number one top gainer from yesterday. Again, pre-market spike, holding its gains. We're holding our gains, though. We're having some stocks. You can see sometimes a little bit more, so it seems like we're getting back to that trend, which is good. So we know it's coming. That's why I said it was going to be. We had spikes, though. I said this coming week was going to be the week I think and it is. I'm still boating and betting on that, essentially, thinking my point being this is really pointing well and a good sign. These actually holding up slowly but surely, getting more and more holding up, continuing the next day. Like we played ENTX today, although it did get back gains. We're still going to see some give back gains. We won't always see stocks with just a huge green candle and hardly a little wick at the top. We're going to probably see if they spike a lot, they're going to have an upper shadow. Now, we like to see the ones with not that big of an upper shadow. Unlike ENTX yesterday, remember, it had a pretty big one. But holding our gains longer is the key here. But again, beautiful. This is the one I was short in yesterday. Beautiful. I just waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and then boom, boom, beautiful. Trend line crack through the VWAP. We're golden. Now, here's one that's kind of defied all odds recently, right? Eyes. And here are the spikes, which I'm going to go through. If you've seen spikes recently, most likely, team, and I can even most likely show you, and I'll get into another one from today. When I finish this off, we'll start with SEAL, S-E-E-L. You see this at the open. Now, granted, eyes, crazy massive runner, end up just going bananas, right? Obviously, we see that. We can see the crazy spike from the $1 area up to, close to 10. Crazy move. Held most of its gains, closing around, over 5, which is fine. But again, let me just show you the pre-market. Let me zoom in on the pre-market. Does this not look like, okay, it's not much. It's a beautiful bull flag, right? Beautiful wedge. But look, we're only up from 150. We're only hitting 230. We're not that big of a top gainer that day. We might be up 50, not even probably 50%, maybe somewhere in that range, not probably even that. So 30%, whatever, that's what, and I'll tell you that. And so does Deck all the time. Usually your top gainers that are up 100, 200, 300%, unless it's just that time of the year and that's kind of the trend, most times, 7 out of 8 times out of 10, those guys are falling off. Those guys aren't going to hold up, and you've seen. I just showed you 20, well, not 20. I showed you about, 12 in a row. About 12 days in a row, too. Same scenario. The ones that have been spiking, you've seen this in pre-market. Small spikes in pre-market that lead to massive spikes afterward. XELA, remember this one from recently, just a couple days ago. Does that not look, not exactly, but very similar to what I just showed you with eyes? Small little spike from 175 up to around the 275, holding over 2 around 225-ish area. Whammy. Whammy. Continuation, actually really holding its gains. Continuation to the next day. Now, of course, eventually we get one of the top gainers because we closed at 450. We hit up at 890. We knew this was a close. I guarantee you it was the other day, and I know it was. That's why I kind of showed you the double edge sort of this. We're not getting the full continuation. And the days we do, like even eyes, we're getting this. We're getting the woo, number one top gainer. Oh, one of the top gainers. Woo, cracking the, you're riding that slide down. Spike at the open though, so you see nice good spike. We spike from $5.75, $6 up to $7.75-ish area, but then end back around close to 4. Again, just yesterday, FINV, look at the pre-market spike. Nothing too much to be said of. Maybe 5-ish, somewhere in that range is where it started, right around 5 up to 6, 625 at most. Battling 6 in this long wedge again, just like what we've seen, all the ones before. Spike with a little bit of a bull flag or, bull flag wedge. Spike with a bull flag, pennant flag wedge. Same thing. That's what we're seeing, and they're smaller. Then we get this explosion eventually. Now let's get into just a couple today just to kind of cap this off. Continuation just from, look at SEAL. Let's go back to SEAL pre-market. Look at the spike, a little flag, and then a little wedge. And it continues to climb. What we're seeing with nice, that's kind of the trend we're in now. Whether it's news or no news, because we've seen what? Back to that. Look, this is the spiking. This is what we've seen to spike. Smaller pre-market gains. It's really not on our board. Works our way up the board. Number one top gainers, let's go to them, as this was up 150% at one point in time. Same big flag. Let's go. A same nice big flag. I know we're on the 3-minute time frame, so we can at least go to the 1-minute time frame to show you a little bit more in depth of what it did. But look, we go from a little under $3 up to $7. Definitely over 100%. We see the same thing, pre-market spike. It's the number one top gainer. That's the main thing that I'm talking about. Not now. See, if this would have went up and wasn't really on anyone's radar, went from 3 to 4, 425-ish, you know, maybe up to, not even the blue line, maybe up, like I said, 440, somewhere in there, and was just hovering this range. Let all those other ones do their mess, and those will tumble down. This would have been the one most likely to explode today. But I told you, and I kept saying that. I would rerun the tape from on YouTube back to when I first went and did my briefing. I said, guys, I'm telling you right now, team, runs way too much. We will not be playing or looking at the stock a few hours into, a couple, hour and a half, whatever it was into the market open. Look, and got exactly what I figured would happen. Just too much, too quick. Seen this for the past 3 weeks. It collapsed, and now is back to 486. ENTX. Again, kind of like I showed you with XCLA, eventually eyes did the same thing. Continuation, even though it gave back a lot of gains yesterday. I mean, look at the daily. That's the main thing you want to look at here. And we're almost right on the day now. But you just look what it did yesterday and go, okay, well, we know it can spike. That's the main thing. And earlier, if anyone you caught in on these gap, these halt up, gap ups, you were part of that. Congrats. Awesome. Quick little bounces. I remember we were talking about those. Got some of these. I waited for the short to be had, because I knew eventually we were going to have this. This is kind of, and some of those ones we saw that were kind of more of a, not so much of a woo. It's more of like, whoa. And then you kind of work your way down and trying to find a base, which I thought we were going to do earlier. And then we don't, and we continue to fall more. But again, number 2 top gainer today, doing the same exact thing. So number 1, 2 top gainers, giving back gains tremendously. We are seeing spikes at the open. So what are we learning here? Go back even just a quick little example of beautiful pre-market spikes. News, everyone's loving the pre-market. They're loving the news in pre-market. Not so much in market. The news kind of goes to the wayside, and no one even cares about the news anymore. And it seems like traders are just trading the stock. And if it starts cracking, and it seems like for the past 3 weeks, traders go, hey, we know, I don't know if they know that's in their mindset too, but hey, we've seen every number, 90% plus of them. I think there were 1 or 2 I didn't go over. I forgot to go over those, but 90+% of them. It was almost 100%. The number 1 top gainer on that morning on Dex newsletter did exactly this. Pre-market beautiful spike, quick spikes at the open that are up and down, up and down. I just gave you all my slides, and then give us the talk about a slide. Ooh, the nice little hill effect where it kind of slowly works its way down, kind of like a hill or a slide. So hopefully that shows you just kind of a synopsis of what we've seen over the past 2+ weeks now, heading into our 3rd week. Pre-market spiking, number 1 top gainers. PR finally goes to the wayside. No one really cares about it, and they're just giving back gains big time. And you get quick spikes at the open, and they are just, it's a great short when you crack. Look at this trend line crack. If I would have got this trend line crack right here, look at that. Right here's your trend line. Crack of that. Try to hold, whammy, and continue to fall off, since then. So that would be, our current market conditions, and hopefully that y'all have seen that. Helps you out just a little bit right here.